So today I'm going to be talking about what should matter more to you as a footballer. Should it be your stats and your numbers or your overall performance? Now, the reason I'm making this vid is purely because I feel like in today's game, I feel like fans and pundits and just everyone in general are too focused on the numbers. You understand? I feel like the game is just shifting more to numbers based. You know what I'm saying? I feel like people, you see people on Twitter, people on Instagram, what else? People on TikTok. They're always posting player stats. You understand? Every time I go on Twitter or Instagram, it's always, oh, this player's got more GA than this player and this player. That means he's a better player. Or this player lost the ball this many times. Or, I'm saying, oh, this player hasn't scored in this many games. So literally, I feel like because the game's moving towards, numbers and metrics and all of that, I'm here to make this vid on what you should focus on as a young footballer. Should you focus on your stats or just your overall performance and really just forget about the numbers? Because in my opinion, all the best players that I've seen, a lot of their best performances didn't even come in a game where they even scored or got an assist. Like, for example, let's take Neymar for example. I remember Neymar has had games where he's got 2 goals and 2 assists, or he scored a hat-trick. He's probably had a game where he scored 4 goals. And he's done, so many amazing things. Obviously, he's top scorer for Brazil, scored goals for Barca and PSG. But in my opinion, Neymar's best game really came in a game where, one, PSG actually lost the game, but number 2, Neymar didn't even score or get an assist. Now, I remember this game was in 2021. I remember PSG were wearing this exact kit. So it was the kit from this season. It was the Champions League in 2021. And obviously PSG had beaten Bayern in the first leg 3-2. But then they lost the second leg 1-0. But they still went through an aggregate on away goals. But in the second leg, I remember, I think PSG were at home because they were wearing this kit, like I said. Second leg away at home, Bayern did beat them 1-0 on the night, but I promise you, if you actually go back and watch that game, even if you just go watch Neymar's highlights, that this Neymar guy was unplayable that day. Like, this guy was just ripping everyone. The only thing that him and Mbappe couldn't do that day was pretty much finished, but everything else was just on point. I remember he was not making Alaba, not making like Lucas Hernandez. Like, he was just I think just Kimmich was trying to get the ball off him, but all Kimmich could do was foul him. Like, nobody could get near to Neymar that day. Like, in my opinion, that day he was unplayable, and that's probably like his best overall performance of his career. Like I said before, he's had games where he's got 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's probably had a game where he scored 3 assists, scored a hat-trick, scored 4. Even scored 4 goals plus 1 assist because he's just that good. But in my opinion, that game against Bayern, that's probably the best game of his career. And he didn't even score a goal or get an assist from it. You understand? Another player in the Champions League who was balling out but didn't even get a goal and assist, I remember, was Sancho. I remember that first leg against PSG. I think it was the semi-finals actually. It was the semi-finals, and he was just ripping Nuno Mendes. And everyone knows that Nuno Mendes isn't, he isn't a scrub. Like, Nuno Mendes is like that. He's that guy as a left back. But Sancho was just ripping him apart. He couldn't get near him. Obviously, Sancho just keeping possession, creating chances. And obviously, I know that game, you could argue, but people were talking about how he took on his man like 10 times, which was the most times a player's taken someone on since Messi, something like that. You could argue, that performance was still based on stats, but he didn't even get a goal, he didn't get an assist. But still, people just, when you actually watch the game, people could just see, alright, cool, this guy, he's on another level. Like, he's in a different zone this game. So me personally, I feel like as a young footballer, you shouldn't really focus on your stats. You should be focused on your overall performance. Now, what I mean by this is that even if there's a game where you score 3 goals, 4 goals, still don't just say, oh, I had a good game because I scored 3 goals, because I scored 4 goals. You understand? Don't just say that. Literally, just after the game, maybe your team video records their games, but literally just after the game, just think about it. All aspects of your game. Was your first touch good? Was your passing good? How many times did you lose the ball? What about your decision making? How many times did you make the right decision? How many times did you make the wrong decision? What was your defensive work like? Were you winning your duels, your aerial duels? In my opinion, you have to look at the whole package. You understand? Because I feel like I said, because the game is shifting towards numbers, you see a lot of professional footballers who they won't have a good game. You understand? They literally won't have a good game, but then they'll pop up and they'll score 2 goals, and now everyone thinks they had a good game. You understand? Like, there's been times where you get things like, you see on OneFootball the player ratings for the match, or you see like like sofa score ratings. You see the sofa score ratings for players after the match. I would literally be watching. I would have watched that game for a full 90 minutes, and a player could have played trash the whole game. But because they scored a goal or got an assist, or maybe they did both, maybe they got a goal and an assist, I'll look at their sofa score rating and I'll be thinking, yo, they gave him like an 8.3, but this guy had an absolute stinker. Like I can name so many times where that's happened. I remember in particular, I was watching Man City, and I think Kovacic. To be honest, Kovacic was poor that day. Like he was poor, giving the ball away, not really doing much. But because he scored 2 goals, I just saw everyone on Instagram saying, "Oh yeah, Kovacic this, Kovacic that. He's so underrated. He's so underrated." And I'll be thinking, "Yo, did you guys actually watch the match? Like he was stinky. I can't lie, he was stinky. But because he got 2 goals, people saw the 2 goals. People saw the sofa score rating, the one football rating, and they ran with it. And now everyone thought that he had a good game. But if you actually watch the game, you'd actually know that he did not have a good game at all. So I just feel like as a young player, always just remember, just because there's a match where maybe you get a goal, get an assist, it doesn't automatically mean you had a good game. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like even me growing up, the players where you'd actually pay attention and they'd actually get noticed, even if they didn't score or get an assist, it's the overall performance that actually catches people's eyes. Because I remember there'll be games where I'll be playing against opponents and an opponent will score 3 goals or will score 4 goals, but most of them were like tapping goals. You understand? No, most of them were tapping goals, and no one was really saying anything after the game. No one was saying, "Oh, he's a sick player. Did you see that guy?" It was just one of them where it's like, "Alright, cool. He scored 4 goals." But there's been times where there have been players where they didn't get a goal, didn't get an assist, but they were just absolutely great on the day. Maybe they were centre mid and you just couldn't get the ball off them. Maybe they were a winger and they were just wreaking havoc on the opposition fullback. Maybe they were centre back and they were just solid, making challenges. You couldn't get the ball, you couldn't get past them. He was winning all his duels on the ground, aerial duels, everything. And then those are the players where I feel like people will take notice, because I've seen it in myself where I've been playing in centre mid. Didn't get a goal, didn't get an assist. Sometimes my team would even lose the game, you understand? But then parents from like the other team would come up to me and be like, "Alright, cool, well done, you had a good game today." Or my dad would be telling me, parents from the other team would be like, whose son is this, or which player is this? Has this guy played in an academy before? Because I'll be playing well. It's happened to my brother as well, where parents will be like, "Yo, is this guy a former academy player? Because he's playing well, he's doing this." My brother plays in centre mid as well, so it's literally a case of like he wouldn't even score or get an assist, but because he's playing well, because the overall performance is there, because people could actually see him play, people, parents from the other team are complimenting his game. Parents on his team were saying, "Yo," parents on his team were saying, "Yo, how well he played, how good of a player he is," and he didn't even get a goal and assist. You understand? But yeah, I feel like as you get older, if your league is one of them leagues where they post like the top goal scorers, because I feel like once you start playing semi-pro and you get to like a higher level, they start posting like the top goal scorers and all of that. Obviously, as a striker or as an attacker, if you're top goal scorer, let's say you've scored 20 goals in 16 matches, obviously that's going to garner some attention, you understand? So I'm not saying to completely disregard the stats and the numbers, because if you're the top scorer in your league, obviously you're going to have teams from maybe a higher division come to watch you play, you understand? But you need to make sure that even though you're scoring, you're putting up numbers, you need to make sure and tell yourself, "Alright, cool, I'm putting up numbers, but is my overall game good?" Because when they come to watch you play, they're not really thinking about the numbers anymore. Now they're watching you with your own 2 eyes, and they're gonna be like, "Alright, cool, we've seen this guy's numbers, we've heard about what he can do, but now let's actually see his overall game." And if your overall game flatters to deceive, if your overall game is not that great, let's say you're a striker and you're struggling to hold up the ball. Anytime the ball comes into you, you're struggling to hold it up. You're struggling to bring people into play. Your first touch isn't great. Let's say you don't really have great ball control. You're losing the ball, or let's say your work rate isn't really there. Obviously, the coaches from a high level are gonna look at that and they're gonna be like, "Alright, cool, he can score goals. Saying he's a goal scorer. He can score goals at this level, but I don't know if he'll fit the system. I don't know if he'll be able to play at the next level, because there are so many glaring weaknesses, there are so many gaping holes in their game." You understand? So I feel like as a young footballer trying to progress to the highest level as you can, I just say focus on your overall game, focus on your overall performance, and don't get blinded by cool, I scored 2 goals, I had a good game today. I got 2 assists, I had a good game today. Because let's be honest, I hear people say, yo, I got 2 assists. Unless your assist was like crazy, even like for me, assists are just a bit like, because even unless your assist wasn't if your assist wasn't like some crazy through ball or crazy eye of the needle play between the lines pass, if it was just because deep, an assist can literally be you just pass it 5 yards to the left of you, and then the guy on the edge of the box literally strikes it and it goes absolutely top bins, and then you get the assist. But it was just a normal pass, you understand? We don't really you can't really count those, even like the assists from like the corners and stuff. When I see Arsenal, they love their corners, you understand? When I see like Declan Rice and Saka getting assists for this, and people are gassing them up saying, oh yeah, Declan Rice has more assists than this player, Saka has more assists than this player, I'm just thinking, yo, it's one of them ones where it's like, yo, they're getting assists from corners, you understand? So don't let the numbers don't let GA blind you into thinking you had a good performance if you didn't. Now, if you did have a good performance, be proud of yourself, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you can still have a good performance and bag a hat-trick. If you bagged a hat-trick but your overall game was good, then that's quality, you understand? But in my opinion, don't get blinded by the GA. Make sure it's always about the overall performance, because like I said, it's always those type of players who get noticed. It's always the centre-back who's big, strong, you can't get past him, who gets noticed. The centre mid, even if he doesn't get GA, he's still, you know what I'm saying, he's still there, composed on the ball, rarely loses it. His positioning is good, so he's getting interceptions, he knows where to be, right place at the right time, he's making his team tick, you understand? Or even the, even the winger, who even though he might not get a goal or an assist, maybe he gets the pre-assist, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he gets the assist to the assist type of thing, but he's still there, being creative, creating chances, you know what I'm saying, being positive, giving the opposite fullback a tough time. So literally, yeah, like I said, GA is good, and it's good to, you know, to put up numbers, because like I said, once you get to a higher level where you might play in a league where they post the stats, if you're one of the top scorers, obviously that might garner some attention, that might have higher level scouts come to watch you, but you need to make sure that your game as an overall package is impressive. So when they actually watch you play, when they actually see you play, they're actually impressed with you, and they're actually like, alright, cool, we can consider this guy, we can consider signing this guy for our team. And then from there, you just jump another level, progress as a footballer, and then you just keep going until you eventually reach your goal. But yeah, that's the vid for today. I hope you enjoyed. I've been JT, and I'm out.